Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Narahida and today I will share one of the topics that I learned in the international relations subject, which is terrorism. The term terrorism is actually quite familiar, right? Because we heard and watched a lot about this issue on television, social media, newspaper and more. So today I will explain to you the definition of terrorism, the factor of its existence, and lastly the misconception that the world sees on terrorism and Islam. To begin with, it seems relevant to define the term terrorism first. The word terror lies inside terrorism, and the word terror derives from Latin terrere, which means fear or tremble. Thus, when it is combined with the French suffix isme, it becomes practicing, trembling or causing fear. Trembling and frightening here are synonyms of fear, panic and anxiety, and what we call it as terror. So from here, we already get a rough idea of what terrorism is. To define terrorism, it varies according to scholars and institutions. The definition that the majority would agree with what a terrorism is, the use or threat of violence and seeks to create fear, not just within the direct victims, but among a wide audience. Next, why does terrorism exist? The explanations for this are complex and numerous. The factors that encourage people to enter and stay in terrorist groups can be religion, economic, social, psychological, and so on. So today, I will highlight 3 of them. First, religion. Religious fanaticism is an intense sense of ideological devotion complemented by a concentrated and unrelenting series of behaviors that express the high dedication of one or more individuals to their own system of belief. This religious fanaticism can be any religion, either Islam, Christian, and many more, but the one that we usually heard and see in the media is often associated with Islam, and they label them as Islamist activists, but for me, I would rather call them as a terrorist. Islam has nothing to do with the action. Islam is a religion of peace, but we will talk about this more later. And for the examples of terrorism influenced by religion are the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 by the Wahhabi group Al-Qaeda. Muhammad Atta, the leader of the attacks, carried with him writings from the Holy Quran that urged him and others to stay firm in their desire to carry out the attacks and pursue the rewards of martyrdom. Based on Islamic writings, one of the rewards of martyrdom is a place in heaven for men with 80,000 servants and 72 virgins, and this is what encouraged them to do so. Again, we should always remember that Islam never teaches its believers to practice violence against others. Never to be too obsessed with the verse without understanding the real meaning and context. Next, oppression. Terrorism can be the result of groups' portrayal of governments and their actors as oppressive. It starts with terrorism, then feeds off the desire to reduce the power of the opponents. For instance, in autocratic societies, military-occupied areas, or even in the international arena where political expression is limited, groups opposing the current state and affairs may engage in terrorism as a principal method of expression and not as a last resort. Especially in the case of nationalist, separatist movements like ETA and Hamas, terrorists often invoke the unfairness of their treatment by governments that deprive them of identity, dignity, security, and freedom as the main reason for joining terrorist groups. One of the examples is the Chechen Black Widows, who are reported to retaliate against Russians for their own experience of rape by the Russian military or the death of their husbands and male family members and friends. Consequently, the Black Widows turned to terrorism as a way to reclaim their personal or family honor. Furthermore, the hatred toward the global economy hegemony. It is believed that countries that express hatred toward the global economic hegemony will produce more terrorist groups. The background that gave birth to Al-Qaeda, namely Afghanistan and Pakistan, symbolizes this notion. Many terrorists abhor the World Trade Organization (WTO), and according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the September 11, 2001 attacks shattered 16 billion of private and government property, including the structures, computer equipment, and software. The loss is the same degree as the cost by Hurricane Andrew in 1992 and the California earthquake of 1994. These are some of the factors that influence the existence of terrorism, and trust me, there are a lot more factors. I will share the link on the description for your further readings. Next, I will talk about the misconception that the world sees on terrorism and Islam, just like what we always see in the media whenever there are attacks, bombing, kidnapping, hijacking, or any other controversial issues. The word Islam are always there in the headlines. These are the misconceptions that the world sees on Islam, and the rate of Islamophobia is increasing day by day. As a Muslim, I believe Islam is a religion of peace, and the Holy Quran is enough to show that Muslims are encouraged to have tolerance, mercy, and justice. There are so many verses in the book that encourage believers to be tolerant of others, kind to the poor, respectful to women, and even to people who have faith in another religion. It is mentioned within the Quran in Surah An-Nahl, by which Allah guides those who pursue His pleasure to the ways of peace and brings them out of darkness into the light by His permission and guides them to a straight path. Allah also mentioned in the Quran, and when He goes away, He strives throughout the land to cause corruption therein and destroy crops and animals, and Allah does not like corruption. It is clearly mentioned at the end of the verse, peace is liked by Allah over anything. So here I think it is our job as a future leader, inshallah, and also as a Muslim to be aware of this issue and help to clear the air on Islam and terrorism. We need to tell the world terrorism is not a religion and Islam against it. Now, we know that what is terrorism, the factors of its existence, and the misconception on Islam and terrorism. So I hope this will benefit you, and do share with me your thoughts on this topic. Till next time, thank you.